Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, April 20th, 2023, and you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. We have an awesome show for you today. Urban Immersive Franchise Network, how to and why own a franchise in your market. And our subject matter experts to talk to us on this topic are Urban Immersive President and CEO Ghislain Lemire and Executive Vice President Francois Hughes Librege. Hello, Ghislain. Hello, Francois. Good to see you. Thanks for being back on the show again.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Awesome. So for today's show, I am going to role play. So it may be helpful to know that my name is Lee. I'm a solo real estate photographer that does 100,000 gross annually. Typically shoot residential real estate, some commercial, typically shooting 250 shoots per year, average shoot $400 per shoot, sometimes just photos. I edit my own images, not necessarily happy about that. I'm thinking about adding at least one photographer as an independent contractor, maybe two. I've never been happy with my website, and feel free to ask me questions as I go through my questions and my little persona. I think it may be helpful to know that I watched previous Urban Immersive Franchise Network shows on WGAN TV at wgan.info/Urban Immersive on WGAN. So I could see all the shows, including the two most recent ones, 8 reasons real estate photographers should join the Urban Immersive Franchise Network and Urban Immersive Franchise Network Deep Dive Back End Demo. And I know that you have a show coming up on WGAN TV, Urban Immersive UI meets 3D tours and ChatGPT equals lead generation. So I'm really familiar with Urban Immersive Franchise Network because I've done my homework by watching these shows. That said, I do have questions. And I've also even been through your website, your microsite, urbanimmersive.com/franchise. So again, I've watched everything, I've read the site, but here are my questions. I shoot Matterport. I'm open to moving away from Matterport, mostly because of how long the shoots take and how much I can charge for them in my market in Nashville, Tennessee. And also because of the monthly hosting costs. Maybe Francois, Urban Immersive offers tours. How should I feel about making this transition?
Like you said, Matterport brings you recurring fees that you even have to pay even if no money is coming in. And the time capture is really long with Matterport. So what it's trying to offer, and we'll go into details because we offer more than just 3D tours. But the whole thing that we're trying to offer, especially 3D tours, is like a simpler platform that's integrated with your other services. That will be a lot cheaper with the offer that we're offering for franchisees. Plus, with a time capture that's a lot more efficient, a lot quicker. So you have more time to do more listings. So instead of being a hurdle and to have some to offer 3D tours, then 3D tours will be something that will be nice to offer to you. Your customer base.
So I'm a little bit confused because it sounds like Urban Immersive doesn't charge me anything for 3D tours.
That's exactly. We have a royalty that's a all-you-can-eat buffet kind of type of royalty. So it's a 3% that includes the use of our platform, our PERP, which is like a photography enterprise resource planning, plus what we offer as like basic products. So single property websites, you have 3D tours and floor plans that are included in that royalty.
So,
sorry, Lee.
Yes, Ghislain?
It's not all the 3D tours that are free. If you do
Yes.
commercial, and you mentioned that you were doing commercial shoots, the commercial 3D tours are charged 1 cent per square feet, actually. So let's say you do like a 10,000 square foot restaurant, you're gonna have to pay 10,000 square multiplied by 0.01.
So $100 for the post-production side of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've mentioned a couple things, and it is a little bit confusing for me. I was going to ask about pricing, but maybe it's helpful if I just kind of understand how this urban immersive franchise network pricing works, what my costs would be, so that when I ask you about Matterport 3D tours, I really can get my hands on that. Francois, you mentioned 3%, and I think what my understanding was from reading everything on the website, watching WGAN TV previous shows with you, if I bill out $100,000 worth of services, then I'm going to be charged 3% of the 100,000.
Exactly.
And essentially you're sending the bills for me. That's part of what I'm buying into the franchise network. So you know how much I'm charging my clients.
Yeah.
So, and then I think so it's pretty straightforward. If I bill out 100,000 for the year, I'm going to be charged 3% times 100,000, but I'm going to be charged when those costs, when I'm earning revenue, that's when I'm being charged.
Exactly. As opposed, like I said, that's why that was the main basic difference is you're giving us money when you're making money.
And then I think there were just like two, maybe at the moment, two other components of cost. One is Ghislain had mentioned that if I'm doing my commercial real estate, I understand that there's a penny per square foot charge. Okay, I get that. And then I'm going to ask you about editing photos in a moment, but it sounds like that's the only other thing that you actually charge me for, and I actually need to do through Urban Immersive Franchise Network is have my photos edited by you, and there's a rate card for that. So I think I've heard three components of cost. One is the 3% royalty. Two is the photo editing charge, which we're going to talk about a little deeper when I ask my questions on that topic. And then three, if I'm doing commercial shoots, I'm going to be charged a penny for that. And maybe I think I was reading there's also some small setup charge getting started.
Okay.
Okay.
Really small, just to cover the initial training, which is really minimalistic.
All right. So I'm going to re-ask my question because I just can't believe that you're not charging me for shooting 3D tours. I mean, I pay Matterport a monthly hosting fee, and it's a little bit crazy because of their new pricing. I got to hide my tours as quick as I can. Otherwise, within my allotment, otherwise I'm going to move up to the next tier and the next tier and just keep paying more hosting. So I'm trying to move away from that. So I want to ask this question because I just really don't, I need clarity on this. If I am shooting urban immersive 3D tours, there is no charge for shooting them. There's no charge for hosting them. And I only get charged 3% of what I charge my client.
That is right. The 3D tours will be hosted 12 months. So after 12 months, you're going to receive an email saying, would you like to have another 12 months? And then you're going to have to pay for another 12 months. But 12 months within the residential market, it's enough for most of the business.
Yes, that works for me in terms of my clients. My clients will be happy, but I would still like to host my tours longer because one of the things, since I'm so prolific at shooting so many tours, I want to impress potential new clients. And so I want a lot of tours to be hosted, even if those houses have already been sold. So do you have your pricing yet on what you charge after 12 months of hosting included?
It's $15 for another 12 months, Lee. But also, if you want to avoid, if you have a large quantity of tours that you would like to host, you can download the tour, and it's very easy to host the tours on your servers if you have a server and stuff like that. If you want to avoid, our costs, because our tour can be downloaded and work and working offline actually, but
Okay, that's cool, and that's a great thing, but you had me at $15 for another 12 months, so
yeah.
that totally made it. So again, I'm just like so in disbelief that you have a really good 3D tour solution. I'm really impressed about this UI meets 3D that I've seen online, and I've seen in the We Get Around Network forum, and I can't wait till next week's show when you do a real deep dive demo in that. So it sounds like I get unlimited 3D tours, no charge, unlimited floor plans, as long as they're
Yeah.
residential.
Yep.
And I get
Absolutely.
unlimited property websites, single property websites.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be very useful to have an unlimited property website because if you have clients that work in teams, then you can provide 3 property websites, one for each of the team and another one that integrate all the team together. That's one point.
Yeah, well, at the moment, it's just me. I'm a solopreneur. I, hope to add 1 or 2 independent contractors. So at the moment, that piece really doesn't apply to me. I'm just obsessed with like I can shoot my tours for free. I can get free floor plans, and I can get single property websites. And the only time I'm charged is when I'm making money. Yep.
Simple as that.
All right. That sounds like a very cool thing. I was thinking, maybe there's some monthly fee that I need to pay to Urban Immersive. You're both nodding your head no. Okay, so I get that. I mentioned that I'm doing my own photo editing. To some extent, it's holding me back because every time I shoot, if I'm editing, I can't be out shooting. And if I decide to delay it to the nighttime, then I can't be spending my time with my wife. So it is somewhat of a pain point to me. I'm an okay editor. I'm not the best, but I kind of have the sense that if I got out of the editing business, I'd have way more time in my life for whatever I want to do with it. You did mention that you charge for photo editing. Can you tell me about that?
Yes. So we charge for that. Like I said, it's the only thing aside of the royalty we'll charge and 3D tours for commercial side, but we charge per picture. So the rate goes when you do your go back at home, download everything to our platform. We all do all the editing overnight. You get your pictures back in the morning. One of the reasons we're really pushing for that also is we need some consistency in deliverables because our customers, we'll approach big customers, nationwide customers. So that way we're making sure that every picture that we deliver has the same quality.
I'll ask you about that more in national accounts, but I wanted to stay on pictures. How do I need to prepare my files? Are you doing bracketed pictures? How do I need to submit my pictures for you for editing?
Just letting you bear with me on that. So
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're going to ask you to use 5 brackets.
Yes.
To get the best pricing we can offer. And also, I think the output is better with 5 brackets. And then when you're going to come back home, you're just going to open our software, select your order, and drop all your brackets in what we call a bucket. And we take care of everything else. The only thing you can do if you want, you can reorder your
I guess, Lynn, sorry, but I did watch your deep dive demo on the previous WGAN TV Live at 5 show. So I'm clear on the back end. I just wanted to get clarity that I need to submit pictures as bracketed 5 times and then I'm good. And I guess I could imagine that there's a rate card and it's somewhat reasonable, and I can just send off an email, get a copy of that, so I know what that looks like. The key thing is I really need to deliver my pictures in the morning. What time do I need to get my images? I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm on Central Time. What time do I need to get the images to you at night in order to get them back? And what time can I get them back the next day?
Well, you can send them anytime you want. It's just that we're going to require at least an average of 12 hours to edit all the images and send it back to you.
Oh, that works. Okay. If I get them to by 8 o'clock at night, I'm going to have them 8 in the morning and ready for the client. Okay. And I think what I saw on your deep dive demo is I can set it up so that my clients just get delivered the pictures directly, even if I don't want to look at them.
Indeed. So we call that the automatic delivery. So if you trust your system enough, so you just opt in for that. And once the photos are edited, they might receive it during the night.
Okay, so I'll ask more about that. I did have I got some notes and I got some questions. I forgot to ask you on the Matterport thing. I don't mind moving to Matterport, but I know I have some clients that may be reluctant to move. How do I deal with that? What's my time frame for migrating from Matterport to Urban Immersive? And then what if I have holdouts that the only way I'm going to keep them as a client if I'm doing Matterport still?
You are allowed to provide Matterport tours, and our systems will allow you to put the links there and everything. The only thing that we're not allowing you, Lee, is to promote those competitive products. That's it.
That's it. So as long as I take it off my website and I can continue to offer Matterport for as long as I want, and then migrate so that I'm offering and promoting the Urban Immersive version of the 3D tours.
Indeed.
Okay, cool. The other thing was I feel like I've been doing this a while with my business, and I've cobbled together all this stuff. So I have MailChimp for doing my e-blasts. I have single property websites I get from another vendor. I mentioned Matterport. Even though I do Matterport, I get floor plans yet from a different vendor. My website, which I've never been happy about, is yet another company. I have hosting that I'm paying for. I've engaged people to do SEO for me from time to time. I got a booking widget. I think I've lost count of all the different things, and I'm getting kind of exhausted keeping track of all these things. My impression was it's like all the things that I could think of to run a photography business, Urban Immersive Franchise Network offers.
Exactly. Yes. So we'll become a one-stop shop for you. So you'll have one big supplier instead of many different suppliers. And the good thing also is all those things you mentioned are fully integrated together.
Okay.
So
And one of the shows I saw, Emily, your VP of operations, talked about that it would be okay to just take my MailChimp list, export it, import it into your platform, and then I could go turn off the annual fee that I pay MailChimp. And then stop getting those charges on some other services that I either have as a subscription or I have as a pay per use. Is that part of the Urban Immersive philosophy? Is like get it all from in under one roof and get rid of all those different things?
Exactly, because that's what we've been doing and experiencing with our own corporate franchisee. So we're just replicating that model to other franchisees.
I'm guessing you really don't give me a website for free, though. Is that an add-on if I decide that I'd like to have you do that as a one-time
There's a small charge for it. It's a one-time expense, and that's it. Yeah.
Okay, that seems pretty reasonable. I mentioned that I was thinking about adding one or two photographers, independent contractors. The kinds of things that are kind of holding me back from doing that is I think, oh gosh, how do I figure out how to compensate the photographer? Because sometimes they're doing 3D tours, sometimes they're doing 3D tours, or I'm doing 3D tours and photos, and sometimes I'm doing video as well. Sometimes I'm doing drone, and it just seems like it's a really complex process to figure out how to properly compensate the photographer, track all that, figure out if I need to pay them mileage, and then on top of that, I'm thinking, oh, this coordination process, because I had a photographer that was helping me out for a while, and every time a client would text me and go, are you, Dan, Lee, are you available at, 10 a.m. on Tuesday? Then I would have to check with my photographer. He would say, yes, I'm available 10 a.m. Tuesday. Then I would get back to the client and say, yes, that works. My team member is available. There's a reason that I've stayed small, because I have this concern. On the other hand, I know I can't grow unless I add an independent contractor or two. Could you help me understand? I don't really understand what an ERP is. I know I saw it in the videos, this, photographer enterprise,
Resource planning, yes.
resource planning, and it had all these words around, booking, scheduling, invoicing, delivering. Maybe we could start with my photographer. How do you simplify how I can onboard independent contractors as photographers?
Shane, you want to go ahead? Because just actually is not only our CEO, he's also a coder, and that's the part of the system that he takes care of very well, actually.
Well, this is where I'm most of the time talking too much, huh?
Okay, don't geek me out. Just give me the top line is, what do I pay the photographer? Do I keep track of everything I want to keep track of? If I want to pay mileage, if I want to establish what the rate is, if I want to pay for like per photo, I pay per tour, shoots a tour, does something with the drone, is there a way to easily, simply track all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And also automate it. So actually, when your photographers will go shoot something for you, they will see in real time how much you're going to be paid. And on your side, you're going to have an approval system where you're going to be able to see all the details of the shoots, how much you're going to be paid for everything they've done during the shoot, and your margins, actually, the sales and versus, the cost, and you approve it, goes to the payroll. So it's a pretty efficient system that we have that enable you to run your solo photography business to a large photography services like we do at Urban Immersive.
So for the platform that, okay, the client has ordered all this stuff, and I understand they could place the order themselves without talking to me, or I could take the order and input it into the system. But assuming they place their order and then I assign it to the photographer, and I saw on your previous show, it all mashes up with the Google Calendar. That made sense to me. Available photographer, boom, assigned. And assuming that the photographer delivers all the things that was promised to the photographer, and I've assigned a rate of pay to each of those tasks, then there's an easy way for me to look at it, approve, and have it automatically go into where I would click on a button to pay the photographer. And it's up to me whether I want to pay instantly or weekly or
Absolutely. And also your photographers will be able to exchange information with you. So if they have a comment, if they do need an adjustment, like let's say they have paid the parking, stuff like that, they're going to be able to give you the information from their photographer panel dashboard. Oh,
that's helpful. There are some toll roads in the greater Nashville area. So that's helpful to know. Okay, so I saw the deep dive demo on this compensation thing, and so I really just wanted to confirm that. So that's helpful to understand. Can you just speak a little bit more about the coordination and scheduling? Maybe just a few minutes, like what does the client do? How do I accept that? How does the photographer get it? And what kind of communication is happening between the client, between me and the photographer, between the photographer and the client? Is that all done by the platform?
It can. Actually, you can still working the way you want to work. So let's say that you prefer your client texting you to say, are you available tomorrow? Stuff like that. So, the system enables you to be flexible the way you want to work. But if you want to have the full automation that the system can provide you, yes, the system will provide your clients a step-by-step ordering system that will give the clients your availability, your hours, and everything. It will calculate the travel fees and give your clients an instant confirmation. And you can also opt in to a real-time route optimization. So meaning that you will encourage your client to pick hours during a day that will stack up your route in order that you will be able to do 8 shoots during your day. So, you don't lose your time traveling here and there from one place to the other place. So we're optimizing also in real time the route.
So Ghislain, does that mean I can have variable pricing to say if the client wants this exact time, it's this cost, or if they're flexible in terms of the morning and don't mind being juggled for efficiency purposes? How does that work?
You could do that. It's not usual that we see this. Actually, the way we encourage client to pick up, a time that will optimize your route is simply by guaranteeing actually the hour of the booking. So let's say that you want to stack up and optimize your route as most as you can. The system will say, okay, this is a guaranteed hour. So if you pick that time, the photographers will not reshuffle your day. While the other time, we're going to give the photographers the flexibility to call you back and say, hey, you know what, maybe, instead of being there at 2 hours, could we work at 3 hours because I have another shoot or stuff like that. So that's the way we try to encourage, the system will try to encourage the clients to pick up the best time for you.
So I think I could handle more shoots if I wasn't just buried with the logistics. It just seems anytime a client places an order, it seems like there's through the life cycle of that order, from how I take it to how I schedule it to how I book it, I'm doing all these manual tasks of tracking, sending emails. I mean, even is there a way to automate emails that confirm to the client that and the photographer's on their way?
That's the basis of the system, to automate all of this so that you can really take advantage of a totally integrated system. And also your client, if your client wants to cancel a meeting, an appointment, or just replace it another day and stuff like that, they don't have to call you. Actually, they can, they can call you if you want, but they can do it online.
Yeah, I mean, I've built a personalized business, but I do have clients that text me, and it is a very short conversation because all they do is say, "Are you available at 10?" And the expectation is, okay, I'm going to reserve the time. They're going to send me the address, and that's the conversation. There's not much more. I have all the information about their name and address, all that, but right now I'm just manually managing all that process myself.
But when your customers will be able to see that while they're sitting where they're with their sellers and be able with them online to book their appointment for the pictures, your customers will like starting to use the automated platform for the online booking.
Yeah, and I missed the name. You call it like PERT or something? Or
PERP, yeah.
PERT.
Photography Enterprise Resource Planning.
Okay, I've heard that term before. ERP. You put
ERP, but specialized for photography. Exactly.
Okay, that's cool. I suspect that I could be way more efficient in my business development. When I'm not busy, I start to make some outbound calls to check up on clients I haven't shot in a while. I've been doing my email marketing. I do e-blasts, when I find the time, but it is pretty time consuming to create these emails and then keep track. How can the Urban Immersive Franchise Network, I think you referred to it as a CRM in the last show, how can you help me with my follow-up emails, with my email marketing?
Right. So there is two things with the marketing. So you have your home digital marketing on Facebook and all your social media. And we're not going there with you. So this is something you're going to have to handle with by yourself or with your selected preferred provider. On the other hand, we do provide you with an email marketing system that comes with many templates and that you can also automate depending of different triggers that you want to set up with your system. So this is the less expensive actually marketing system that you can use, and it's built in the system, and it's super easy to create new templates, send them to your clients. It's like that very efficient system.
So I'm assuming most photographers are either doing a bundle that's a 3D tour photos, floor plan, single property website. So are you creating templates for different bundles, different services? And
yeah, actually, yeah, you do have options of different templates, and you can yourself create templates with our system. So templates that are just for you.
Okay. Now, I know you said this, before at the earlier in our discussion that you don't charge for email marketing, but I just want to re-ask the question. You're not charging me every time I do an e-blast to my customers, all included.
It's all included.
And what about tracking? Right now, I didn't say I was using HubSpot in terms of trying to keep track of. Sometimes I enter it in HubSpot, sometimes I don't. Is there an equivalent piece for Urban Immersive Franchise Network in terms of tracking my sales calls?
Absolutely. Everything is included in terms of tracking your sales activities, also tracking what your clients have seen on your website. So the page views and stuff like that, the statistics. So everything's included. So you don't have to buy or to use systems like HubSpot, Salesforce, and stuff like that.
So it's another category, another vendor that I could save some money by like importing my content back into Urban Immersive Franchise Network, not be charged for a monthly fee, and another vendor I can simplify my life and reduce my out-of-pocket expense.
I will go further than that, yes, but if you hire, so let's say you become so big that at one point you want to hire a sales rep or an inside salesperson, the system comes also with a commissions on activities and on sales that will ease the process of paying your sales rep.
Okay. Francois, you touched on this a little bit earlier when we were talking about photos, of wanting to be consistent because of maybe some national accounts. I guess there were, two questions. I think they're both kind of money related or revenue related. Do you anticipate potential leads for our business, and do you anticipate potential orders from national accounts via Urban Immersive? Could you touch on those two topics of how joining the Urban Immersive Franchise Network might result in additional business for me?
Yes, because we already have our corporate franchises that are covering many markets in the US, but many is maybe relative, a few markets. So we still have many markets that we don't cover, but we have customers that are in those markets and that are already dealing with us in the markets that we cover. So those customers are an easy target. And when we open up franchises, we tell them, hey, we have coverage in Nashville, Tennessee. Lee is there. So with that,
so if you have a potential lead for me, is that my pricing, or is that pricing that Urban Immersive is specifying?
Most will be like those. There's two different ways to look at it. It could be if it's a national deal that we have a special price all across the nation, then it would be a special pricing. If they just want to know if we have coverage, then they can go through our website, the marketplace, see that you're there, and choose you as a provider.
Okay, so for clarification, just make sure I understand this, is that I joined the Urban Immersive Franchise Network. You're doing some marketing at a national level. It sparks an inbound inquiry for photography services in my town, Nashville, Tennessee. You might just forward that lead to me and say, hey, this is what they expressed interest in. It would be your client, your pricing. It's up to you to close the deal.
Yes.
And then the second thing, I think what I heard was that there may be some business where And I can imagine there's a national account. They don't want to talk to 150 photographers in 37 cities and negotiate pricing in every market. So you may strike a deal with a company that needs 150 cities covered in 37 US states, and then you'll maybe
You have a pre-established price for those.
come back to me and say, hey, this is what the job pays. Are you in or you out?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so that's straightforward. That I get it. Okay, so I might get some. Should I count on some extra business, or it's just think of it as gravy if and when it happens?
We'll have some actually, and we have partnership with CoreLogic, which is our main shareholder, and they have partnerships with MLSs all across the US. So we are integrated in those MLSs also. So for that, especially smaller MLSs actually that are looking for photographers, then because we have partnerships with them and franchisees, we'll be able to offer them a service, and that'll give a few listings a month to a franchisee that's in that territory.
Okay, I got to ask this question a little bit differently. Maybe, and this might be for Ghislain. I watched intently the last WGAN TV show. When I was watching, Dan gave out a short URL, wgan.info/urban immersive on WGAN. So I was able to watch all the shows. And my ears perked up because it sounded like just before your last show that you did a deal with CoreLogic. Could you tell me a little bit about, do they own the whole company now? Do they bring in new business? Can you give me the top line on what that deal is and how it might affect me in Nashville, Tennessee?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we acquired from CoreLogic Home Visit, which was their photography services division. And after the deal, we also concluded a partnership agreement in which, there's multiple technological integrations and co-marketing program that we're putting in place so that, it's gonna ease the process of making business with you and with our platform for real estate agents, and that for real estate agents, the way to increase also productivities. As an example, we established so far with 26 MLSs a single sign-on system, meaning that if an agent is signed in his system, can automatically be logged in your ordering system. But there's multiple integration to comes as well.
So that sounds like it might be less friction for the agent. They've already signed in and they can simply place an order because they see me in their platform.
Absolutely. Afterwards, you can think about integration that will take your visual content and push automatically your content on the MLS. Your clients will not have to download it and re-upload it on their platform. So it's all integration that looks like this, and also the visibility of the platform, the national platform, so that you can get some orders, some leads from this integration. So like Francois said, CoreLogic is owning 20% of the company, so it's the biggest shareholder. They're very serious about working with Urban Immersive and making it, like you say, I like your word, a frictionless experience for your client.
Well, do I need to worry home visits in my market? Do I need to worry that now I have a competitor that when I place an order through Urban Immersive Franchise Network, that Home Visit has access to now my clients?
You have when you become a franchisee of Urban Immersive, you have a protected territory, a full protection within your territory, and your clients are protected as well. So Home Visit will not be able to run after your clients, or we're mentioning Home Visit, but it could be other brands that we own. And
I notice you now have 9 different companies that you bought. I love that you bought the companies, because it sounds like before you even wanted to talk to me about joining as a franchisee, you've been able to work out all the back end systems with franchisees that you actually own. That said, I just want to make sure that they're not have a competitive advantage over my business in Nashville because you own them, and therefore the leads are going to automatically come in and get parsed out to one of those 9 businesses if they're in my market.
That's a good point. Actually, no, they're running exactly the same systems, the same procedures, the same rules that you're gonna have to follow as a franchisee, but mainly protected territory and protected clients.
Well, since CoreLogic now owns 20% of the company, and now with this home visit piece, do you think you'll end up having new national accounts as a result of that, and or simply leads from my market? Do you think that that's a significant thing that I should be really celebrating, that it's a really good thing?
But this is actually our goal. And in order to achieve that, we need you, because we cannot, home visit is not everywhere. North America, it's super large. So in order to create deals with national accounts, we need to have a very large network of franchise photographers, because first, the franchise enabled to have a consistent output, consistent products and experience. So it's easy for companies like CoreLogic to integrate our system and provide a consistent experience.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, I think I read that one of the things, in fact, I think it was in a WGAN TV show. I think you mentioned, because of that CoreLogic acquisition, and they're big into print and direct mail, that's something that may be a new service that you end up offering to us, print direct mail.
This is actually the cherry on top of the sundae, if you want, because home visit is operating a pretty significant print operation. So we have our own printers and everything. And this is right now a service that is exclusively to home visit brand, that we will soon roll out to all our franchisees. So meaning that soon, if you become a franchise of Urban Immersive, you're going to be able to offer prints and direct mail services, which we expect will increase your business revenue from the same number of orders you will do.
Okay, so I presume that's going to be an add-on. That's not going to be you're sending out free pieces of direct mail for me, but presumably I'm not paying for it unless I actually make a sale. So
yeah, it's going to be totally integrated within the ordering system. So your client will be able to order, select the templates, select their neighborhood where they want to send the flyers and stuff like that. It's a turnkey solution. You won't have more work to do. We're going to handle everything from the design, the prints, and everything. So it's just to increase your revenues.
Okay, that's cool. I look forward to learning about that when it comes out. Francois, I'm sorry, I have a meeting coming up after this, and I need to keep moving. Francois, I think you mentioned some kind of business insights. I'm not sure. It was related to, like, when I was engaged my independent contractor, you could tell like what % I was paying to the photographer versus my revenue. Maybe Ghislain, maybe that was you.
Yeah, the margins with the photographers.
Yeah. So
you can send every shoot how much money you've made on every shoot.
So it's easy to keep track of that. I'm thinking right now, like, okay, well, I paid for gas, I paid for the tolls. Like, really, how much money did I actually make on that job? And it's like brute force to figure it out every time yeah. Okay. So are there other kinds of insights that you may be business insights, because it is in this ERP system?
But you bring a good point, because actually photographers that work within our groups, they find it pretty interesting to be able to see data and benchmark their own metrics with the rest of the group, because we're very transparent. We were talking about margins. We're super open about margins. What should be your margins? How much you should pay photographers? So you're always going to have a group to talk with and benchmark, your ideas, your pricing, and stuff like that. So that's part also of the advantages of being a franchisee.
So do you aggregate all the data and anonymize it so that I can actually see, oh, my margin is 50%, the average is 60% of all the franchisees that are going through the platform. So I can't see who that is, but it's being anonymized and aggregated and anonymized. Is that awesome? Yeah, during one of the shows you mentioned, Francois, recurring revenue. I think you called it Prime. I couldn't get my arms around that. Can you help me understand? I love the idea of recurring revenue. I don't have any today. How might joining Urban Immersive Franchise Network help me generate recurring revenue? What does that look like? I don't understand.
Our Prime subscription is similar to Amazon Prime, where you get free delivery on every order that you make, no matter how many orders you make a month. So it's the same principle, but based on 3D tours and floor plans.
Can you
So
give me an example of what a client would pay and what is it that they get?
let's say a customer pays $150 for a photo shoot for 30 pictures. Then you charge X amount for a 3D tour plus X amount for floor plans. If that customer subscribes to a Prime membership, that usually we suggest it's sell around $30 a month. With that Prime membership, when you orders a single like a regular photo shoot for the price of $150, that customer will get the 3D tour and floor plan included at that price.
Okay, now I'm totally confused because if the client is paying $30 a month, and I think I've heard unlimited virtual tours, unlimited floor plans, unlimited single property websites. You know, when I presently do a Matterport tour, I may be charging $350 for that. And I think what I'm hearing is you're saying, but now you do that free. Now, granted, I understand I'd be switching to Urban Immersive 3D tours, which take a lot less time to shoot, and there's zero hosting costs, so I don't need to think about that.
Yeah.
But I have some angst about, like, you're asking me to give up $350 for shooting a tour that I'm only getting $30. And what if that client well, I don't know, I guess my average client is like 4 or 5 tours.
Exactly. Yeah, an average broker agent orders 4.5 listings a year. So for sure there'll be power sellers that are using more, but usually, like, on the long run, if you go on an average, it's 4.5. So the good thing is, like, your cost as a franchisee, if somebody orders a 3D tour, your cost is only your time if you do the shoot yourself, or the time of your photographer to capture. There's no additional cost, but you get the revenue every month. We share that revenue 30-70, so 30% for Urban Immersive, 70% for the franchisee. So if you charge $30 a month, you'll get $21 every single month for that customer. So
Okay.
the good thing is, when there's no listings and you're not there shooting, you're still making that $21 a month.
And I have a couple brokers that I do business with, and the brokers pay for the real estate agent tours. So would I be charging the broker $30? And now I got 5 agents that are banging away at that?
It has to be per agent. It's
Per agent.
yes.
Okay. Okay. And, should I just not worry about this, that, like, there's a business model there, it's working for your
It's working.
other clients?
That when you said, like, actually, because we own photography agencies, we're testing those things, and that gives us a big market advantage that we see. It's something that's hard to go against, and the good thing, it ensures customers' loyalty because they know that with you they're getting more for their money. So the good thing is, usually an agent has, like, a backup photographer, so they will use you as a primary photographer 60%, 70% of the time, and then use a backup photographer. When the customer subscribes to Prime, they'll give you almost 100% of his business, because he knows that he's getting his money's worth with you.
So the idea is to get more business,
Exactly.
get more business because the agent's thinking, oh, I called Dan, he's not available. But now they don't have to call me because I didn't pick up, and they moved on to the next photographer. First, they can go book it online, but there's now another incentive for them to use me because they only have to pay for the photos, not for the 3D tour, the floor
Exactly.
plans and the property website.
And I
Okay,
go back to my
totally
example
get
of
that.
Amazon. If I can order something from Amazon from Staples, the price is the same, but I have a free delivery with Amazon. I will always order with them.
Okay, I can make a leap of faith there. Incidentally, you mentioned that because you have these 9 companies that you acquired that are essentially franchisees. Granted, they're much bigger than my business. I think Home Visit was like 250 photographers. Is that about right?
Yep.
So and I imagine, some of these agencies have been using Matterport. I just want to I just have this angst. I mean, should I be worried? What's been the experience about your agencies switching that you've acquired, switching from Matterport to Urban Immersive for 3D tours?
That's why, just like I said earlier, that there's no obligation to, like, if a customer still wants to deal with Matterport, okay. But we offer only Urban Immersive 3D tours. We've kept the same philosophy with our corporate franchises. And the good thing is we saw is like over 97% have switched the 3D tours. So it's only a
And
small
you're
percentage.
not
of customers.
forcing the other 3%. It's the same thing that you've just offered me to say, hey,
Yep.
if your client wants to keep Matterport, perfectly fine, but your success rate is 97% of the clients have switched. I imagine part of the switching is that the tours are good enough and you can charge less for them because they don't take as long to shoot. So the client ends up getting a lower price, presumably.
Exactly.
And either I or my independent contractors can be in and out faster, and therefore we can handle more business.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me. When I was watching that deep dive demo on the back end of Urban Immersive franchise, it's been maybe a week or so since I did that. Could you just remind me, maybe, Ghislain, about like, what can my client do on their login of the portal?
Your client will have his own dashboard, and within his what we call the client panel, they will be able to manage everything from ordering, from seeing their invoices, changing the description, stuff like that. So it's a complete dashboard that they can manage. Also UIMe 3D that we're gonna talk about next week. So yeah, and it's a great UI, and it's very efficient for your clients to manage everything from there.
Okay, let me see if I understand. They can place orders, they can change orders, they can look at existing appointments, they can look at their order history.
They can also consult the invoices, so you don't have to use a separate invoicing system. It's all integrated, so your client will love the fact that they see the orders and the attached invoice to the order.
Okay, and I think also that I can deliver my content and they can pay when they get the delivery.
Yeah, we have a feature.
And I think there was something else. I didn't quite understand it. Maybe I want to say the term is line of credit. Maybe you have a different term. Can you just explain to me what that was? Like, am I just allowing client?
You certainly have great clients that are not willing to pay you per shoot because maybe they're too large, or they're having 10 years of history with you.
Yes,
so
I have some large clients. They say, like, this is such a pain to have to put it on a credit card because then I got to expense it back to my company. It's a pain in the tush. Isn't there a different way you could handle this?
Yeah, the system comes with what we call a credit line. So your client you will be able yourself to decide how much credit you want to give them. So let's say you're allowing them to spend $4,000 per month. So they're going to see their credit line every time they will order, or the team in which, because it could be a team that will order from you, it's going to add up the photo shoot cost on their credit lines. At the end of the month, the system will send them their statement, and they will have 20 days to pay, and you can decide if you want to charge interest and everything.
Okay, so if I'm presently sending them a paper invoice once a month, this is all handled automatically. I don't need to keep track of it. The system keeps track of it. And if I want to accept credit cards, which would be new for me, that's okay. And I think I read there's not even a credit card fee. So if I charge $400 for a job, the job is $400, whether they pay with a credit card or pay by check. Is that correct?
But actually, you're going to register your credit card system within our system. So that's going to be the fee of your credit card if you use PayPal or Stripe.
Okay. So whatever my company presently pays me.
Yeah.
I did just have a couple other questions. I just wanted to make sure that I can keep my brand. I mean, like Lee Way Real Estate Photography Services, Nashville, Tennessee. We've been around a really long time. So I just want to make sure I'm not just changing my name to Urban Immersive Franchise Nashville.
If you go on the websites of all of our corporate franchisees, you'll see that it's Home Visit powered by Urban Immersive. So your name will remain because your customer knows you, your customers know you, and we want to keep it that way.
Okay, that's what I thought I saw in the shows. And I just have to ask this question. I know you said it at the beginning of our conversation, but there's no recurring franchise fee.
That's right.
Our target customer, like a target franchisee, potential franchisee, is somebody that's already in business. So we know we'll have a royalty coming up. We don't have to somebody starting from scratch that won't have revenue in the first 6 months because they have to build their business. Your business is already there, already growing, already profitable. So we just want to keep that going. So
okay, well, I shared with you. I'm pretty good about my forecasting. I'm doing about $100,000 every 12 months. Business has been a little flat for me. I know part of that is like I get overwhelmed with the logistics, and so that's why I wanted to really start this call. Is I think that maybe moving away from Matterport would let me reduce the time it takes to do shoots. It would get me out of that hosting. It sounds like I can do migrate clients at their pace. And frankly, they'd have an advantage of a lower cost and then we're in and out. I'm happy about the fact that you all would edit my images. And frankly, I think the quality would get better than my editing. And then I can spend more time with my wife, and then I can spend more time doing shoots on the days that I'm doing that. I got all these different third-party tools. So I'd be happy to, get rid of all of those and consolidate it under one platform. It sounds like I'd be able to easily add 1 or 2 freelance photographers and have a simple way to pay them, track them. The whole idea of booking, scheduling, invoicing, delivering sounds like that perp. I'm going to call it a perpetrator, but the perp platform that you got, the ERP for photographers, that sounds cool. I'd be thrilled to be able to get rid of my annual MailChimp bill. It's pretty big. And my HubSpot and my everything else that I'm doing. I'm not sure I count on any potential leads in any national business, but frankly, if any of it came in, I'd be thrilled. It sounds like it'd be nice to get some insights about my business. I'm looking forward to learning more about that order print and direct mail stuff. Certainly that I know, I love watching Dan and his WGAN TV shows. He always seems to ask the questions that I'd want to ask. So Ghislain, I understand you're doing that show with Dan next week, kind of that deep dive, urban immersive UI meet 3D tours plus chat GPT equals lead generation. That sounds way cool. So, I think where I am is, great. I'm ready to join. What happens next? How long does it take? When do I get my training?
Well, it's pretty straightforward.
Go ahead, Justin, go ahead.
Okay. So it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we have an onboarding team, a very solid onboarding team. So you just apply. They're going to contact you. You're going to have some interviews with the team to make sure there's a fit and there's you're going to receive the contract, so you're going to have to take the time to read it. And by the way, about the contract, keep in mind that if you join our network and you don't like all the systems and all we work and the technology, you can just send us a notice and you can get out, in 30 days. There's no real obligation. And by the fact that you keep your name, the risk of pulling on the plug, it's quite
Yeah. All right. I love it. Tell you what, I'll go to urbanimmersive.com/franchise. I'll look for the link. I'll request the contract. It sounds like if I have any additional questions, I can email franchise@urbanimmersive.com and just send off my questions or schedule a meeting if I need to do that. Based on the description of my business, does it sound like I would get a quick approval and could get started with Urban Immersive Franchise Network?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, this is Dan. I just saw you talk with Lee. It looks like he's super excited about getting started with you. That's awesome. Francois Ghislain, thanks for being on the show today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Lee.
Thanks, Dan.
Lee was visiting with Urban Immersive's Executive Vice President, Francois Hughes Libergier, and Urban Immersive's President and CEO, Ghislain Lemire. I'm Dan Smigbrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum, and you've been watching WGAN TV live at 5.